object that signifies something. So that signification in this particular case is presence of two cranes or a couple crane, and this gives an object or a form. So when we talk about form, automatically our object comes and matter comes. So form is a combination of matter and form. Sorry, object is a combination of matter and form. Now, when we see this kind of picture, this is a picture that has been taken in IICD. So they are our students. They are trying to probably putting some tapes over this mannequin and trying to experiment or explore how it looks like. So this story that I am telling, that these two students are trying to experiment or explore. So this story comes out by seeing this picture. So when we talk about perception, that means if we go back again, so this is the particular object or a form, we can say. So it always generates a perception. For example, this is a picture, it is two-dimensional, but it generates a perception that two students, they are trying to experiment with something, maybe tape, black tape or a red tape on a particular mannequin. So form always gives some kind of perception. And that perception that is seen through our eyes or felt, that creates a feeling. And while exploring, for example, when we are talking about this particular case, that the two students, they are trying to experiment or explore a form, so some change is happening. For example, this is a tea coaster that is being made, and there are some embellishment or inlay work that is going on. So that particular embellishment or inlay work that is being done on this coaster is doing a change. Now, the change is happening on this marble piece. So the marble piece is persisting. That means though the change is happening, this piece of marble, this circular piece of marble, that is persisting through the changes. So if we say that a change is happening, it is happening on the surface, not the total marble piece. And there could be a lack. That means some of it is removed where this inlay or this particular embellishment is getting done. So a part of marble piece is being removed. So we can call that as a lack. That is also a change. So this particular piece that is persisting through the change, there is a lack. And during that lack, there is some other thing that is being added. And after all this addition and finishing, we can say a form is acquired during the change. So if we talk about form and how it is being generated, again, we go back into this particular slide. So there was probably a block and a change was happened through reduction of material from this area. So that's why this particular form was generated. Similarly, here also a change is being happening, but this particular mannequin, this is existing to the change. That means even if the girls here, they design a particular, say, form, dress form, and put it on the top of this mannequin, the form will take shape of the mannequin. The mannequin is persisting. So in a change, there is something that is always persisting. If we go a little deeper, for example, this is another lab work in IICD. So this girl, she is dipping a piece of cloth in this tumbler. So this tumbler is containing some kind of mud. This is a mud dabu printing. So a change is happening, and after dipping this particular cloth in this dye or mud, there would be a drastic change, or we can say a radical change, and this fabric will take the color of this dye. or maybe it will take the mud on this fabric surface. So that is one kind of change. And similarly, you can see these bottles. These are again clay bottles. Clay, here is also clay, there is also clay. But here, the clay form has been generated to give the form of bottle. That is a substantial change, because clay itself, it didn't had this particular form. So a form that has been given through substantial change. And here, for example, a change is happening which is not substantial, but it is, we can say, incremental or accidental changes. So change can be substantial change or could be accidental or incremental change. So we talked about form, we talked about matter, we talked about changes. Now this is a sculpture. We can see there are bronze ladies who are holding a cast iron top, and they're standing on cast iron base. When we are talking about these ladies, this is made up of bronze, that is the matter. So it has a form, that the lady form or the human form that has been given to this cast iron, bronze. So if this is melted, then it will again form a bronze. So there is a change that has happened from bronze to this particular sculpture. So that change, we can call it a substantial change. Now this is a meeting that is going on, and here I am talking. So the difference between these two is that here there are human bodies which is consisting of matters of flesh and bone. But what they can do, they can talk, they can laugh, they can listen, they can do some kind of gesture, they can say wave hands, they can walk. So these are the functions that this particular human forms can do. But these forms which are made out of bones, they can't do that. So that means a function can define the particular characteristic of a form. So if this bronze statue, for say in any hypothetical case, if some function, say we can add on it, for example, it can move or it can swing, so that will give an added value. So function is always related with some kind of characteristic or the value that is being added to a product. Now, these are the 4 questions that we have been dealing with for the past few slides. The first question is what the thing is made of, and that is nothing but matter. For example, this is a beautiful piece of sofa that has been made out of raw wood logs. So these are the wood logs, and it has been delicately cut and then polished, and then the shape is given. So what is this thing made up of? This is made up of wood. What the thing is, this is the particular form that we are talking about. This form, this tells that this is a chair form. So this particular thing is a chair. What made the thing come into existence? So the cause. That means the logs that were cut, those are polished, those were dimensioned, then those were made into some kind of fixtures or attachments or arrangement. So arrangement is one of the primary cause of this form, particular form, because if these pieces were left alone or they were not arranged properly, then it could not have taken this form. So arrangement is the cause for this particular form. And what its purpose, that is the function. So purpose of this is make ourselves comfortable by sitting. So those are the 4 cues or the 4 questions for any particular kind of product that we generally answer or we keep in mind while designing. The other things then comes into secondary, for example, the aesthetics, the appearance, aesthetic and appearance, and then the touchness or the pleasingness of the product. So those are the secondary that comes after we define all these 4 questions. matter, form, cause, and function. Now, is there really a need? There is a lot of debate. For example, design, whether it is ethical design or where there is really a need. For example, mall culture. We all now are habituated with mall culture. The mall culture was not there before the Second World War. It came into happening only in Europe and in the 1970s. So at that time, the concept grew up that in a single building there could be multiple functional, we can say functional units that can serve as kiosks or shops. Now for that particular kind of arrangement, which we call the interior decoration, that was needed. So in a single space, again, it could happen that a particular design, a golden ratio, was also being taken into consideration, where the crowds would be maximum available, and that could be in cafeteria. So cafeteria would be at the end of a mall space or a mall floor. So these things has become a need which was a luxury maybe a few years ago. So we can't really say that this is a luxury and there is no need. If we look into this particular picture, this is a electric auto rickshaw. We can see that has a nice shade, and this shade, it is aerodynamic shape. We have seen in Jaipur also, or in many parts of India, that auto rickshaws, electric auto rickshaw or diesel or petrol auto rickshaws or LPG, in India they have the particular form of a rectangle, and they do not have the machine which might cater for high horsepower. So it is really a low horsepower machine that carries 4 or 5 persons. And if the total, say, envelope of that particular auto rickshaw is designed in such a way that it can at least remove the barrier of wind, then probably the pressure on the engine could be reduced. So that was the need of creating this particular form for auto rickshaw. So that's why it is not a rectangular or particular, say, deformed rectangular, but it is much more like a water body or aerodynamic in shape. That means if this auto rickshaw, it moves forward, so first this part will touch the wind layer, then this part. So the pressure on the engine would not be too high. So with a low pressure engine also, it can run at fast speed. So that was the need. Now, when we talk about need, generally it is the need of the customers. For example, it is the need of the auto rickshaw owners, that they need some kind of design which will allow them to run at fast speed even by using the same capacity engine. So that was the need from the customers who are the auto rickshaw owners here. So for that, generally what really happens when there is a design modification, the specifications that are already existing or the norms that are already existing, those are consulted, and accordingly a change has been adopted. Now that change comes through decision making and ultimately gives a form. This is a particular form that we can see. It is an electric auto rickshaw. So customer has raised a query or a requirement and several documents consulted. So then comes to decision making. Now decision making is an integral part of designing. Decision making can be divided into, again, 2 categories. One is design decision, the other one is management decision. When we talk about design decision, we have to give answer of 2 questions at least. The first one is what to make, and the second one is how to make. For example, we talked about that particular chair, that wooden chair that had cut log woods that were arranged. So what to make is the chair, and how to make is by arrangement or by cutting the logs into various shapes and pieces. So that was the design decision. Now, to make the design decision successful, or to make the output of the design to be successful, the management decision takes place. The management decision can be divided into at least 3 questions. The first thing is what the product is, or what is the design, where to launch. It could be domestic, it could be local, it could be international, and when to launch. So these 3 questions, what, where, and when, it comes into the management category, and design decisions, what and how, it comes into design category. If we will now analyze a few examples, then we can get familiar with this kind of decision makings. For example, again, we come to this particular mannequin. Now, the dress form has been draped around the mannequin. So, a question comes again, who is it for? Who is it for, this particular draping or the garment? What are their goals? So, suppose we are designing this for a particular segment of people. So, are they really want this kind of dress form? Is that their goal or not? So these 2 generally comes at the beginning. Then how can we help them to meet their goals? For example, if they require this kind of dress form, or even if they do not require this kind of dress form, so we have to identify their goals. So that's the first question, what are their goals? So suppose maybe we can design this particular dress form for school kids of maybe 6 years old. For 6-year-old kids, is that their goal to get this kind of dress form for the school uniform? The answer would be obviously no. So are we helping them, or we are not helping them? Then this question comes. So in order to answer this question, we have to get understanding or the feeling for the customer for whom we are trying to design this kind of products. Now, feeling for the customer is important to identify their goals. And once we identify their goals, we can take design decisions, we can go for prototyping, we can do testing the solutions, and we can try to make our solutions or our design solutions to solve their problems. So these comes under the design decisions. So all these questions, right from say design making or design conceptualization, right from design conceptualization to prototyping, we have to continuously ask these questions to us or the designers who are developing this. Now, what is our criteria? We are designers. We are trying to solve a problem. So we are helping them. Now, how to know whether we are helping them? That means whether we are making their life little better, or maybe we are putting a lot of jargons in their life. So in order to do that, brainstorming is necessary. And there are various techniques of brainstorming. So our tools of brainstorming, for example, it could be group brainstorming, it could be brainstorming on desktop, individual. So various techniques of brainstorming can be done. And through brainstorming, we can generate or we can get innovative ideas and evaluate those ideas. So brainstorming is necessary to judge whether the decisions that we are taking is going to solve their problems or not. The first thing is to identify the problem and then to see whether we can help them. And after brainstorming and idea evaluation, we choose the best idea to help that guy. And now who is that guy? That guy is the customer, or the consumer of the product or the particular dress form or draping that we are trying to make. So main objective of the designer is to help that guy. And in order to help that particular guy, the solution to their problem has to be taken care of. And in order to find the solution, we have devised a prototype. Now, when we do prototyping, there could be, say, more than one type or one prototype, maybe 3 prototype or 7, there could be multiple explorations. There is a quotation by Tim Brown, who was famous, is very famous for design thinking. He said that if we fail early, we succeed soon. So once we devise a prototype and we recognize that it is going to fail, the moment we recognize the failure criteria, we are going to redesign the prototype. So it is very good to identify the failure criteria first. So it is better to fail early so that the product becomes successful in the market. And in order to get the product successful, we have to do, it is a necessity that the prototype should be tested on multiple audience. And the feedback that is received from the particular audience, a group of audience, that helps in confidence building. Confidence building can be in terms of making the product much better, or could be something that can be done into changes. So changes could be one of the necessity after product testing. So that change, whether it is required or not, can be confided if we do user testing. So prototyping, then different form, then user testing, and then confidence building. So these all come in a say a chained manner or in a sequential way. Now, when we are, suppose we are designing costumes or maybe dress form or any maybe shoes or any kind of product. So we are designing these for someone, and who are they? That is the first question before we do the product design. So this could be the first question for brainstorming, to identify who are they. So these they, or this particular range of people, we have to identify that particular range of people, and if possible, we have to do a kind of sampling, and we have to take interviews, and we have to identify different traits. For example, what are the patterns that are generally observed in that particular category or segment of, say, people for whom we are trying to develop a product. So is there any general pattern, or is there any common pattern that is particularly visible in this particular target customer group? Also, how is their behavior? For example, we are for example, devising dress form for swimmers. Now the swimmers, they would swim. That means the behavioral pattern, and that would need some kind of dress which would make them comfortable in water also. So the behavior identification is very necessary. Motivations, now, what motivates them more? So if we design, say, for example, some dress form for teenagers, we have to keep in mind what motivates them. If we make dull colors and say that this is a motivation, that may not particularly motivate the teenagers. So motivation criteria must be taken into care. The other is need. Again, the swimmer and the youth, teenagers. So the swimmer needs a kind of dress form that is compatible with water also, and the teenagers need kind of dress or drapings that they can wear comfortably in different places. So that could be the need of these two particular categories identified. And what are their goals? The goal of the swimmer is to swim while wearing that cloth, and the goal of the teenagers maybe could be go out wearing that cloth. So the goal has to be identified along with all these criteria. Now, when we identify all these criteria, we draw inferences. Maybe we throw away something, retain something. So this is basically abduction and deduction process, when we throw away something and we take care of something. So after taking care of something, we create personas. For example, teenagers, generally we create that they are very jovial in nature, they are very flourishing in nature, we can say. They want to go out and get mixed with other people. So that is the kind of persona that we can say that teenagers want. So those personas has to be identified, and then after identifying those personas, we have to see what we can do and what we can't do. For example, say we are maybe manufacturing, say, leggings, or we are devising a design for legging manufacturing. And we have identified personas, for example, jovial in nature. So probably we can't make the leggings jovial in nature, but what we can do, we can make it very comfortable for going out. That means it could be having stretchy materials. So that we can do, but we can't do the jovial or flourishing nature. So that means we require synthesis, and then we have to define the primary design targets. So this step or this particular kind of thinking process, we have to take into consideration while designing any kind of product. So for example, if we see these lightings, now these lightings, it immediately generates a sensation that it is very maybe a comfortable place to work on, a meeting place, maybe it could be a good place for having a stroll in afternoon. So these lights, these generates that particular ambience. So that kind of decoration, it could be indoor decoration, it could be outdoor decoration, but the ambience has to be created for this particular segment of human beings or target customer who would come out with this kind of pattern, behavior, motivation, needs, and goals. So all these kind of atmosphere we have to take into consideration, and we have to think that after all, we are part of nature. So we want to mingle with nature. The most difficult part is to get feedback while we are doing interviews, or we are trying to get feedback from consumers. And now in this particular pandemic situation, or even in pre-COVID situation also, the most common way to get feedback from, say, target audience or target customers is through online feedback. Now, there are 4 types of feedbacks that we can get through online. The first one, what we generally need, they are the consumers. Now, the consumers, they have this particular motivation, so they really want to gain insight into the product. For example, suppose there is a jeans, and they really want to know what the material is made up of. If there is a polyester, how much percentage of polyester is added to that jeans, whether it is stretchy or not. So that is their motivation, the motivation of the consumer. And what do? They generally visit different places. So before buying a mobile phone, for example, what we do a research online. So we visit various forums and read posts and blogs, and then we take decision. And that decision is the outcome. So the consumer develops a knowledge base, and on the basis of that knowledge base, they can choose the particular product, or they will go to buy that product. Now, this is the characteristic of a consumer category. There is another characteristic or another segment of people who are commenters. So their behavior is different from the consumers. Their behavior is they seek clarification. For example, they will shoot an email and they will ask for some more detail. They will ask questions, then they will try to give their opinions, and then they can give feedback also. So the outcome of this process, this particular behavioral process, is that they are getting into confidence. So once they gain the confidence, they can become consumer also. So this is another particular segment of people. The other segment, the contributors, they are very important because they want to test the new ideas, and then they want to give personal opinions. For example, if you buy something from Amazon, and that was a new thing that I bought. We haven't bought that particular, say, product before. So after testing, we leave a feedback, and we sometimes give critical feedback. So that helps the designer or the developer to re-modify the design. So that's why they are called contributor. So their motivation is to test new things and then give feedbacks. The other one, who are commentator, they are also helpful for any kind of business or any kind of design, product design. So the way they help, or the way they motivate themselves is they engage with communities, they share idea, and what they like, they try to get it flourished. For example, through WhatsApp. So commentator, if they like a particular, say, design or a particular mobile phone, or a particular, say, any kind of information, they will flash out to different communities. So these are kind of people that we generally get while doing a consumer survey, or while we are trying to get feedback. So we must get ourselves knowledgeable to get accustomed with this 4 different kind of, we can say, customers, consumer, commentators, contributors, but all of them together can make the whole range of customers. So this is again a photograph of ICT, our students. So how to design? Now, once the consumer feedback has been received, and the brainstorming has done at least once, then how to design a product? Now, for that, we have to first define what we are going to design. So definition, a design definition has to be given to our process. And then after we collect the information, for example, through consumer survey or from internet, we have to take into consideration what we can do and what we cannot do. For example, if you want to make, say, Eiffel Tower. Now, Eiffel Tower, it is probably a very example of a simplified design and a very best example of space design. But can we really make a Eiffel Tower on our own? So the answer would be no. So we can't do that. So that also comes under a process of brainstorming. Then whatever we can do, or which is in our area of consideration, then we have to develop solutions to how we can approach those. And after developing those solutions, we generally do some prototypings, and then, or maybe we do not do prototyping, even we can just do a sketch and try to get feedback. Once we receive the feedback, we sit back and then try to improve again. So that is also a process of design. So from define to sit back and improve. All this process, this keeps on going simultaneously. And the more we go through this process, the finer the design material or the product becomes, and the product gets much more chance of getting success in the market. Then we have to think about them. Now, who are them? They are the consumers or the customers. For example, this is the same boulevard, and they are the customers. So what we are going to design, basically, we are trying to design maybe a jeans pant or the shoes. So what are we offering? So with the jeans pant, maybe we are offering it is washable, and it maybe it is traceable, and maybe it is sporty or something like that. Similarly, for shoes, maybe we can say it is it has moisture breathing capability, so it will not accumulate any germ inside the shoe. That means it will not give any bad smell during any season. So those are the things that we want to offer. Now, on the basis of those offerings, we will try to reach out to the customers. So when we want to reach out to the customers, first criteria or the one-dimensional quality attributes that we give are the spoken attributes. For example, wrinkle-free. So suppose we are designing say 100% cotton shirt. So 100% cotton is also one-dimensional quality attribute. That means it is we are telling as a designer or as a producer house, we are telling that it is going to be 100% cotton. Also, we are telling that it is going to be wrinkle-free. So these are all spoken words that we are giving with the product. Also, we can say it is do-it-yourself. Maybe we are designing, say, a product or accessories that can be assembled by the customer himself or herself. So that's why DIY tag is given. So those are the spoken, the guaranteed words. If we are, for example, manufacturing products, for example, shoes, so we are telling that it is washable. So that is one-dimensional quality attribute that we are guaranteeing to the customer, and it is spoken, it is written. So with that, we are trying to reaching out to our target consumers. Now, what are the attractive attributes which are not spoken? For example, a lot of people nowadays are buying products from Amazon. Why? Because the first criteria, it is available online. Now, it is not readily, we can say it is a spoken word that it is available online. It is an unspoken word. So that is being given to the consumers. So that is kind of attractive attribute because we can sit in our comfortable zone, probably in our home or maybe in our office space, and then we can buy something. So that is the unspoken word or the attractive attribute that is tagged with Amazon. Or maybe we can say the GeoMart. No one now wants to go to the, say, Reliance shopping mall. Instead, they want to book it online through GeoMart. So that is the attractive attribute that Reliance offering to the customer. It is unspoken. The other thing is specification sheets. So once we buy something, we get specification sheet, and that gives us confidence that the product that we have bought has this kind of particular material that is going to function like this way. So that specification sheet, it is never said by the producer that they would be providing specification sheet with the product, and especially if it is low priced product. So specification sheet, that is kind of attribute that is given by the producer with the product. And this specification sheet could be very small in size also. For example, often we see in our shirts or in our, say, trousers, there are tags that are attached with it. It says it is 100% cotton. So it should be washed in mild water with mild detergent. So that kind of specification has been given. So these are attractive attributes that the producer or a designer can attach with their product. The other kind of attributes, or unspoken attributes, are e-services. We have already talked. Maybe advanced booking. So for example, in cinema hall, that is kind of service though. So advanced booking is available. The other thing is hygienic. Suppose we are, devising a dress form or producing a particular dress form, and that could be antibacterial and could be hygienic also, because it could be used in, say, in some harsh conditions also, and that will keep us protected. So that is also a kind of sensation that is generated into the customer's mind once he or she buys that particular antibacterial cloth. So these are the attractive attributes. The other thing is must be attribute. For example, legality, reliability of information. For example, this is a very good design, we can say. For mobile phone, for example, suppose we want to buy the cover of our mobile phone. We go to one shop, the price we find there is little high, so we go to another shop. There may be a price is a little low. So how to guarantee the quality? So this particular kiosk has been generated to dispense of mobile accessories. We can see there are different covers and also different accessories, for example, earphone and a Bluetooth phone, and also we can see the Bluetooth speakers and other kind of gadgets here. So, but this is giving at a fixed rate and by this particular company. So that means this kiosk, this is giving out a message of the legality or reliability of the information that is being associated with this product. So this is a very good design of satisfying the customer's need, or how to reach out to the customer. So a customer will always feel comfortable to take, buy a mobile cover from this particular dispenser instead of going from shop to shop. The other kind of reaching out is indifferent attribute. For example, age-related attributes. So this is a particular picture. We can see maybe they're septuagenarian or above 60s, the people, and they are using, we can see the hats also, and also the earphones, and they're also carrying, say, backpacks. So now this kind of accessories that these particular gentlemen are carrying, whether they are suitable for elderly, whether they are feeling comfortable or not, we can easily say that these are very much comfortable product for younger generation. But how about the older generation? Are they scared away, or are they feeling comfortable or not? So these are indifferent attributes that are being associated with products. Now, when they are scaring away, so that is, we can say, reverse quality attributes. Suppose we develop a product which is maybe high-tech, or maybe it has a deep cut address form. So high-tech and deep cut, generally it will scare away the elderly people. So reverse quality attributes are also associated with the kind of design that we are doing. But suppose say high-tech and deep cut, low cut, it doesn't matter. It will generally attract a group of teenagers. So when we talk or when we design a product, we have to take into consideration of the particular segment of people for whom we are designing the product. Now, this is the graph that we can see, we can devise before we do all those prototyping. The horizontal line, this is showing, we can say that it is showing the performance related attributes of a particular product, and the vertical line, this is showing the satisfaction level of a particular product. So plus means from this 0 point to this side, the performance is increasing, and from 0 point to this side minus, the performance is decreasing. Similarly, from 0 point to upper, here the performance is increasing, and from 0 point to lower, the performance is decreasing. So suppose we made a product which doesn't have much very good performance related criteria, and it is not being able to satisfy the customers. So here the face, we can see that he or she has made a very bad face to the product. So it will come into this particular quadrant. That means it is not being able to perform at the satisfaction level of the customers. Now, if we take, say, a particular change into that product, for example, suppose we give a 10% increase in performance, it will give a 10% increase in satisfaction within the customer. So that kind of linear change, that change that we talked before also, that can be done or can be added as a value addition to the product to increase the satisfaction level of the customer. So with increasing performance, we can provide satisfaction level. Now, what are the kind of performances that can be increased? So there must be performances. For example, we had seen in the first one. So, for example, this one, so online availability. Now, this is the must be performance criteria that has to be given while giving a change to our product line. So that must be performance, for example, online purchasing capability of a product may satisfy 10% of the customer. So that would bring smile to the face. And if we keep on increasing the performance, the satisfaction level of the customer will gradually increase. Along with that, suppose we give some kind of delighters. For example, with a, freebies, we can say. Suppose if they spend 1,000 rupees in online shopping, they will get a wristwatch for free. Now that is the delighters. So that will immediately jump the satisfaction level of the customer. So this is the kind of market strategy that has to be considered along with the designer's conceptualization also while talking about changing or redesigning the product. Now, why do we need to do such kind of change or redesign a product? Because we want to facilitate the broader system or the broader consumer base that are around us. For example, if we think about India, 40% of its population living in urban areas for the moment. And by 2030, that means within 10 years, from current 42 cities, there will be 68 cities with 1 million plus population. 1 million is 10 lakh. So there will be 68 cities from the currently available 42 cities. That means the urbanization process is rapidly growing, and the people are preferring the urban facilities as compared to the rural calmness. So this can become offensive also, this can become defensive also. So that's why what was used to be luxury a decade before has now become a necessity. For example, a ATM bank or a money dispensing machine. So that was a luxury maybe in 2004 or 2006, but ATM has become a necessity. Every household has now the ATM card. So ATM card is one kind of, say, a landmark change in business, because it is a kind of product that facilitated the consumer beliefs, or it increased the range of consumer from kids to elderly. So what would be the attitude of the designer? So instead of I do not care for what the others want, the attitude of the designers that should be I do care. So a little change in attitude may change the design or the prototype, which can cater to more number of people or more segments of the human population. For example, when we are talking about a human population, we have to take consideration of their purchasing power or the pocket capacity also. So with materials, we are designing something. So it is a form. So by using material, we are developing a form. In that form, we are giving a function. Now all this process would add some value and also add a lot of cost. When we say that it is adding cost, then we come to this particular term, affordability. That means if we are designing something, whether it is affordable by the customers. And when we talk about customers, we can divide the customers into different segments: middle income, low income, economically weaker section. Accordingly, we can choose the custom materials, and we can give the form, or maybe we can revise the design process. Also, the security of tenure, for example, suppose we are spending a little amount of more money and we say that the chart that we have bought is going to sustain, say, 8 years of playing or something like that. So that kind of security of tenure and maintenance or service that is being offered by the designer, the manufacturer. So how good after service that the design house or the producer house is offering to the consumer. So that also increases the level of confidence among the customers. So these are the several criteria which are really important while taking our design consideration. The other are cultural adequacy. For example, in our country, there are various cultures mixed together. So whether the design that we have made, is it unique cultural? That means can it be fit to all cultures? That is the universal appeal of the design, or it is say to a particular segment, so multicultural or unicultural. Similarly, habitability, whether it can be for all kind of people who are practicing different kind of activities throughout the day. For example, jeans pant can be worn while playing soccer and also while attending a class. So that kind of habitability. And the location proximity of the customer range and the manufacturer. So that is also defining criteria. But all these has some kind of say positive motivation also, because the global population is gradually increasing. So that means a lot of people now are looking for different varieties of product, and the tastes are also changing. So there is a demand in the market. So as a designer, often we feel that I do not have that much creativity. Now, this is a particular quotation by David Kelley, again for design thinking. So generally it is everyone who or all of us are creative. So creative doesn't mean that we can do sculptures like Michelangelo, or maybe the paintings and drawings of Leonardo da Vinci that we saw in the first few slides. So that's exceptional, but we could be having other kind of creativity. That means to understand the other person's need. So that kind of creativity is needed while doing brainstorming, and that is called creative confidence, the new term that has been coined by David Kelley. So creative confidence is basically, we can say, it is not the particular skill or imagination for developing art form. It is basically to understand what other people's need, and how we can say segregate, or how we can filter those needs into some particular concepts. That means simplification of the need or simplification of the problem. So that is also a creative ability. So probably now we have come to some inner say questions. Why should we design new things? There are a lot of designs that are already available in the market. For example, there are a lot of shoes, there are a lot of sportswear, there are a lot of different jeans, pants, t-shirts that are already available in the market. There are also a lot of, say, planters and tables and chairs of different forms that are available. So why new design? Now, design, if we think from the viewpoint of a, say, production house or a business house, a design is needed to retain the customer. So suppose we are, say, buying flowers from, say, flower shop. Often what we need special kind of flower bouquet to attend a say particular function, for example a marriage party. So that kind of bouquet or new design should be available in that particular flower shop, otherwise I will go to another flower shop. So a new design is to be devised by that flower shop owner to retain his customers. Now the customers are having changing needs, which depends on the situation or the surroundings. So new design is needed for any kind of business or maybe a design house, and that is to satisfy customer expectations, also to attract new customers, also to reduce market competition. For example, in that particular flower shop, if the arrangement of that shop is done in such a way, the flower bouquet are being kept in one side, the loose flowers are kept in other side, then there could be some tulips or some flower stands that can be kept in one side. So that kind of interior decoration that will benefit, or maybe that will build confidence within the customer to enter into that shop and buy the product of their choice. So through that interior decoration, what the shop owner is doing, he is weaving off the market competition. So basically he is increasing the market by attracting new customer. So already he is retaining customer. Now he is attracting new customer by just doing some interior decoration or space design. So there is also the concept of design. That means even on the office table, we have a particular design that we are applying knowingly or unknowingly. And even a shop also can apply a particular design, and the particular design application in the shop is to attract new customers and retain customers. So once these two are satisfied, automatically the profit margin goes up, and in existing ranges, so the cost reduces. So that is the reason why do we need new design. Now for a new design, we have been talking about different characteristics. That means what are we going to make or going to do with that particular new design. So that kind of simulation or a characteristic accumulation, or we can say persona identification and amplification of that persona in that particular design product or service has to be done. So that gives the characteristic to that particular product. And as many times we do that kind of simulation, we can develop a range of product, and that representation or ranges can satisfy or win customers for that particular design house, or we can say a designer's production. So the characteristic identification is very important. Now, when we talk about material, so there are now new concepts that are being coming. One is called biomimetic or biomimetic design. The other one is cradle to cradle. That means utilize less material and recycle more. So when we talk about cradle to cradle or C2C design, so that means we are reusing more or recycling more. So already some product is there, and we are recycling by either introducing some more functionality to make customer delighted. So if we go back to that particular, we can say this particular graph. So basically by redesigning or reforming the existing design, we are adding delighters or must be criteria to the existing product. So that's how customer satisfaction has been increasing. So he or she is becoming happy. So making customer happy is also a kind of objective. So utilize less material, that is also a functional, we can say a functional principle of design, how to utilize less material to give more performance or more satisfaction to customer. So for that, a particular ideology, we have design for environment, design for recycle, design for logistics, design for zero toxicity. So these are all kind of concepts that has come in today's place, and these are being all taken into consideration when we talk about biomimicry or biomimetic design. For example, this is a pelican. You can see a very nicely sitting pelican with a long beak. And the purpose of this pelican with a long beak, see the way the bird is looking at the water. So what he or she is trying to identify is whether there is a fish. The moment it sees a fish, it will poke inside the water and catch the fish. Now, because of this particular design of this beak, it doesn't generate much wave forms inside the water, so it doesn't scare away the fishes. So because of this design, this particular bird is surviving in the nature. Also, the kind of movement that it does, for example, a very slow, say, one leg movement from this place to that place. So that kind of movement, not to say generate much noise or waves inside this particular, we can say, ecosystem. So and that is inbuilt. That is the nature's gift that is being given to this bird. And on the other hand, we see this is another predator. This is a tiger. So the tiger and the bird, so they have two different characteristic, we can say. The tiger gives a howl. On the other hand, the bird is very quiet. Its movement is very stealth. The tiger is also stealth, but because of its bodily shape, it will generally shake the bushes or the surroundings. But the other criteria is that it can run very fast. It has a very tough jaw, we can see. So this particular face or the jaw is very different with the beak. So these are the nature's gift given to these two particular kind of animals for survival. And for survival, it has a particular form, it has particular functions, it is made up of particular material. So this is flesh fur, and we can see there are a lot of feathers. So this feather aids the function that is the bird having, and this fur that aids the function of the tiger. So the material basically aids the form and function. So when we do biomimicry or biomimetic design, we do take into consideration of these also: the material, the function, the characteristic, the habits, or the movements, or the particular nature that and that our particular, we can say, a natural being is performing. So for that, what we generally do, so we do all this kind of study, and then we do a brainstorming. Within that brainstorming, we create 3D models, and those 3D models can be made using very simple materials. For example, a readily available paper, even say waste newspaper or waste cardboards. Those can be used for making 3D models, or maybe beads, wires, and colored papers can be added, foams can be added, and then we can reshape it, redesign it, disintegrate it, and then give a particular form, try to see whether it is having proper function or not. Then suppose we create these 3D models, we do sketchings, and in that sketchings also we try to make it apparent that this particular product is going to do this kind of function. For example, a roller skater. A roller skater, suppose it is going to have a particular, say, aerodynamic shape, but it must be having the rollers. So a roller skater may have an aerodynamic shape, but because of that rollers, it can, say, skid on the top of the ice. So that particular functionality or kind of shapes or forms can be depictable or can be maybe displayed through sketchings. Once this sketching is done, 3D models are done, we then try to put the functionalities to do the prototyping. So these are the kind of things that we generally do. Now, this is a very good example of bio-inspired design. This is a particular garment that has been designed by Iris van Herpen. So we have seen that bird. So it has kind of, say for this example, we can directly relate. So these are the fluttering motion of the wings. So the motion of the wings from up, down, up, down. So this motion has inspired the designer to develop this particular dress form. So this is design that has been inspired by nature, or we can say it is a maybe a copy of a movement that is happening in nature. So we can say it is biophilic design, biophilic movement copy. Similarly, this one, we can see its particular shape, bird motion. So if bird, it would say fly, so it basically generate waves, or maybe if it is swimming, it is generating waves. So that waves has been directly put into this particular dress form or garment to show the biomimicry, or to translate the motions that are happening in nature into a human-made object. The other thing, we are very familiar, again, the beak. So this is the kingfisher beak, and this is the bullet train. So in Japan, the bullet trains were the first high-speed railways, and when it was made commercial, it was found that after it enters into a tunnel and exits from the tunnel, it creates a shock wave. That kind of shock wave generates a sound which are not eco-friendly. That means it harms, or it basically pollutes the environment by making such a noise. So the designers, they found this beak shape because it can say reduce the generation of waves into the surrounding, because this kingfisher, it has the ability to poke into the water and catch fishes. Now, and that particular catching action is supported by this particular beak design, which reduces the shock waves. So that has been adopted for the bullet train design, the nose of the bullet train also. So this is also biomimicry. So again, we come back to the first question, what to design. So when we again come to this question, what to design, we can design a dress form, we can design an indoor environment, we can design a chair, a table, or an office, a room, something like that. So what to design? That is the question that a designer must first answer. And then what is the purpose of that design? What are the usability criteria? For example, an office room will have different usability criteria than a washroom. So a washroom and an office room should not be having the same kind of design. It would also would be taking care of the environment, emotions of the people. For example, suppose a office wall, it is painted black, and so it would probably not take care of the emotions of the people or the office staffs who would want a lighty space. But that black wall could really help for, say, graphic design, or say animation design, or photography development. So the environment and emotions must take care of the purpose and use criteria. So these all comes all together, and then after we fix these four, then we come to the constraints. That means what could be the possible blockages, or we can say the juggernauts, or we can say nutcrackers that can come in the roadway, on the pathway of that design, or maybe the design use. So constraint identification is very much important. One of the say popular constraint identification is the say purchase power of the customers. So if the customers targeted do not have very high purchasing power, then there is no point of designing say high-end product for that particular segment of customers. So a purchase power is one of the possible constraint criteria that is taken while considering designing. So throughout these slides, what we are talking about, first thing is the man, the human being, because it is the human being generally for whom, and the designer is also a human being. So man is the first criteria. Now the man can be he-man or it could be she-man. So it's irrespective of gender. So man is a universal human being, we can say. So man is the first criteria, then the machine. That means the capability of the designer house or the designer, whether he can transfer his ideas into a product. So that whether he has that kind of machine or not, whether he has got access of that material or not. For example, if we want to design an Eiffel Tower, whether we have that machine, that material, that money, and that method, not, or do we have? So once we have got the man could be the designer, the consumer. We have to brainstorm through these four particular. So machine, do we have those or not? Material, do we have those? Do those materials really satisfy the consumer needs or not? The money that is needed to develop that particular design, and the money that the consumer is going to spend, and the methods that the design is going to take place, or the methodologies. So it could be design decision, it could be management decision, or it could be both. So design decision, management decision, this comes under the method. So these 5 aims, these are to be taken into consideration. 5 aims, you can say aims, also AIMS. So the aims or goals of our designing. So after considering all these, we fix the output, the purpose of the design. It could be product, it could be dress form, it could be interior, say office space. What are the set of requirements that we had identified? So the output is not a plan or a symbol. So it is not a say a blueprint or maybe an AutoCAD drawing. So the output has to be something that has some kind of function that the user is going to avail of. So the output, there has to be a form, a function, and then the design space that the output is going to define. Now, for example, a blank room that doesn't have a table, that doesn't have a chair, would always dissatisfy a customer when he would enter into that room for say any official work or any leisure work, because he would be looking for a chair or a stool to sit. So a design space consideration is also criteria for output. Then fundamental concepts. So while we talked about all these things, we talked about money also, and we talked about time also. So for manufacturing design, generally it is a 70 to 80% of cost and time that is given to the design phase, and manufacturing phase only contains 20% of money. And while we talk about design phase or spending money for a particular launch of a product, we have to take into consideration of failures. What could be the possible hindrances or failures? The first hindrances are the poor designs. That means the designs are really not needed in the market. It is a forced design. So it is not, say, demand. It was forced into the market. So we can say it could be a design that is not accepted by the customer at all. So we can say it is poor design. The other criteria is high pricing. The target segment is not being able to buy that product. High manufacturing cost. So that comes under a designing phase, also prototyping phase. Poor market research. That means the maybe decision-making team, they didn't do a proper research of the market. They just projected the market to very high end and then allowed the designer to build this kind of product. And the other could be the competitors' influence. For example, in mobile market also, we can see that often one product is on the high while the other product is low. So the competitors' influence is also could be the failure criteria for a new product. So the process of product development, now we can generalize it into 4 different process. We can say the stages: ideation, conceptualization, prototyping, and then market-related activities. So there are now different theories of, say, value creation, or maybe in design theories also. So circular versus linear, and the previous methodologies, generally it was very linear design or very linear process. So the first few would be maybe how to create values. So adding design values to, or maybe functions to a particular form. So for addition of each function, it is going to add cost. So that is kind of a linear approach. But now the approach is much more circular. So by adding a particular, say, function, it is not only adding cost, but it is also increasing the customer's delight. So we have to take into consideration of the total ecosystem. So how do we take into consideration of the ecosystem? By total value, which is the willingness to pay by the consumer. So if the consumer is willing to pay for that particular functionalities given to a form, so that means it is going to add a value creation in the market system. So the success mantra, we can say in a nutshell, it is the customer. So making customers happy is the success mantra. And how to make the customer happy is by providing lower cost with a better quality or more functionalities. And for the manufacturer, the success mantra is lower cost, that is the manufacturing cost, higher capability, and less production time. So for example, we are designing a product, and we are designing it, say, for in part by part. So for one machine, or say one part is produced somewhere, the other part is produced somewhere. So that way the capability can be enhanced and the timing can be reduced. So that saves the indirect cost to the manufacturer. So with that, we come to the last concept of this particular webinar, and that is the product life cycle, or the PLC. So when we talk about product life cycle, so this is the life cycle of a product. At a very beginning, when there is only research activities or prototyping is going on, so it is the introduction phase, or the test phase, we can say, and after that it is launched into the market. So when it is launched into the market, the product demand, it shows a growth. So this is the growth phase that is associated with higher sales or a higher amount of return. Then it reaches to a maturity stage. The maturity stage means there is not much change in demand, so it is almost a stagnant market. So the sales is also stagnant. The time is passing away. So time is always moving. Time is a constant. So time is always passing away, and the product has reached a saturity stage or a stagnant stage. Then after some period of time, it shows a declining or a phase away phase in which the sales is not much. So the sales, total sales is decreasing, the profit is decreasing, and time is passing away. So these are the 4 phases of a product life cycle that is defined in this particular diagram. Now, how to take pre-measures to avoid this decline phase. Now, decline phase happens after reaching maturity. So if we can do something in this particular growth curve, for example, we have devised a product and that has been selling in the market well. Now, instead of getting into confidence that it is going to sell well for say 100 years, suppose we diversify the products. Now that diversify or relaunch of a particular range of product will give lot of offshoots from this growth phase. Now that offshoots, what will happen? That will increase the height of the maturity. That means it will take more time to leave that maturity level. So the moment we have increased the height, that means we have increased the time gap. That means sales value is continuously ringing. So the producer or the designer is continuously getting profit by developing new product. So that is what the need of doing a new product or new design. That means to keep the producer always in the growth curve instead of going to maturity or stagnant level. For example, we have seen in say toothpaste or maybe in mobile manufacturer also. So each year they bring out a newer version almost. So that newer version brings another curve maybe here, another curve here, and then another curve here. So that increases the height of the maturity. So basically it gives time for the manufacturer to keep on moving to the growth curve to the maturity level. So the moment this height is increased, that means the sales value is also increasing. So that makes the business profitable. So that is the PLC curve or product life cycle curve. So once that PLC curve is identified, then the product policy of an organization is defined, and it is generally defined by the management. It could be quality and the functions. It could be the unique selling propositions. For example, say soft drinks, say Mountain Dew. So it has kind of unique selling proposition as compared to maybe Thumbs Up or Coca-Cola. So that kind of management strategy, quality and function is to be attached with the product that we have discussed before also. So policies may vary for different product of the same manufacturing house. For example, we have say Lay's and wafers. So one wafer, here we can see the Lay's potato chips. So initially when it came into the market, it was just salted potato chips. Then it came into flavored potato chips. Then nowadays it has barbecue flavored potato chips. It has pepperoni flavored potato chips. It has black pepper added masala potato chips. So basically through the diversification of the product, the company is trying to stay on this growth curve and is not getting contented with this higher sales value. So it is basically shooting up and up and up this maturity level. So that is the policy of the organization. So again, to satisfy customer or to win customer, lowest price, highest quality, safety issues. Now, highest quality is possible in the market segment for a particular range of customer. For example, BMW car, they do never compromise with the quality, and they have a particular segment of customer who prefer quality more than the money. So BMW car, it always captures the high-end market segment. So target group identification is very much important. And what are the other features of the product? For example, durability. If we say a planter or maybe a car, so how long it is going to serve us? So that is the durability. Is it going to be reusable or not? For example, jeans pant. So after it is torn away, so can it be reusable to any other kind of product? Recyclable or not. So these are the catchy terms or flashy terms that are now winning customers. And what are the production styles? For example, handmade. So the handmade, this tag, if it is attached with the product, a particular segment of customer is generally attracted to that one. So this is the kind of features that can be adopted by the designers. The other one is SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat analysis. This often gives a predictive model for the consumer or for the production house to design a particular product. And the product design concept also, so clarify and map out the key issues that we have been discussing throughout this presentation. So what are the key issues? That means what are the needs, the motivations, or the goals of the customer segments that we are trying. So that mapping has to be done. So unless that is done, the product is really not going to be successful in the market. Now, these are the steps of the concept generation. So systematic is a better word. So the more systematic means the more chance of getting success into the market, and the reflection on the result. That means whether we are doing redesigning on the feedback received. So that is also one of the success criteria. We have already talked about creativity. So it is the ability to come up with ideas or artifacts so that are new, surprising, and valuable. So it could be not only the sculptures are not going to be very good sketching. So ideas are also very important. And these are the objectives of product design. So to meet new requirements, and new requirements from both sides, from the production house side and also from the customer side. So to stay on that growth curve, so, and not to go to the maturity level or the stagnant level. So that is the new requirement. So that is also always going to increase the company's market share and to utilize surplus capacity also. So we have already talked about the main principles of good product design. That means the functionality should be there, the reliability should be there. Reliability means that functionality should be happening properly. For example, we are designing a roller skater and we sold that skater and the roller is not functioning. So that means it is hampering the reliability of the product. So that thing has to be taken care of. Productivity must be within a particular time frame and quantity and quality. So once word is guaranteed, the productivity has to be taken in such a way that it keeps the word guaranteed to the customer. Quality is important. Even for low-cost product also, it carries some kind of quality and functionality and reliability, and the standardization. So these things are features of good engineering. Then we have reverse engineering also, or back engineering. For example, we take a product and then we disintegrate it and add some more functionality. So basically, we are going back to the original manufacturing process of the product, and then we are tweaking some maybe process or terms or adding some more values by giving functions. So that is reverse engineering. So we have already talked about, and also the economic marketing aspect. So in a nutshell, product design is a kind of, we can say it's a concurrent activities. That's why the new term is now doing into the market. It's called concurrent engineering. That is taken into the product design concept also. So in concurrent engineering, what happens? The marketing team sits along with the designing team and the manufacturing team, and they brainstorm together. For example, if the customer gives say a set criteria that you have to give a product within 100 rupees per piece. Now that is the marketing team's requirement. So he sits with the design team, and the design team then chalks out a plan or a design and gives it to manufacturing team. The manufacturing team immediately chalks out the costing for manufacturing requirement and gives it back to the marketing team. The marketing team then can analyze the profit or maybe the loss also, and give the feedback immediately to the customer. So that is called concurrent engineering. So instead of the commonly practiced linear engineering, where the marketing team is separate, that goes to carry on an order and then gives to the manufacturing team. The manufacturing team then gives that order to the designing team. So these are all separate segments, and the designing team gives a feedback after 10 days to the manufacturing team. The manufacturing team, after doing all kind of protocol study and specification study, gives feedback after 10 days to the manufacturing team, and then to the marketing team, and then the marketing team gives feedback to the customer after 20 days. So by that time, the customer has probably found another design house or production house. So this way, the production house or the designer is basically losing the market. So that's why concurrent engineering, in which all teams sit together and brainstorm together, is getting much more popular. So with that, I can say that this is the end of the presentation. Hope you have learned something, and I have been able to deliver something new to your existing knowledge. Pratibha ma'am, are you still here? Yes, Prabha ma'am, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. So,
hello everyone. Any question, any query?
yes, so if you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Any question? Yes, sir. So thank you so much. Thank you. That's a very inspirational thought shared with us. Helpful to you, helpful to us, our students as well as staff. All students from Pasha as well interior. So thank you so much, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much to you also for giving the opportunity to talk in this session. And thank you to all participants for your patience and giving me time. If you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Please. No. It's okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much again. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm leaving the meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.